world, let's talk about power buckets today, because so much of not just children, teenagers, adults, everything, so much of the unwanted behaviors come from empty power buckets. There are actually two buckets that children need filled every day. There's the love bucket and the power bucket. And I'm going to focus on the power bucket today, because whether you've got a child that's 2 years old that's doing tantrums, or whether you've got, a 6-year-old that won't go to bed, or whether you've got a 10-year-old that's complaining all the time, or a teenager that's really rebelling, no matter what, so often what underlies all of these issues is power bucket issues. Okay, so let me just share with you what an empty power bucket looks like, because here's the thing: we are all born with free will. We are all born screaming and demanding for everything we want and wanting to have control over the world around us. And we need to know we do have power. We need to be able to use our power, and we need to know that the world will respond to us. And so whenever we're in a situation where something we're wanting to create we're not getting the response that we like, we end up feeling powerless. This is the child and the parent. The parent's not getting the behavior they want. The parent feels powerless. And so in your powerlessness, you come out with all your triggers and all your responses that further diminishes the child's power, because they weren't getting what they wanted in the first place. Now they've got you taking what was maybe remaining of their power. So now they're in a state of powerlessness, and you've got powerlessness versus powerlessness, and it's a big bunch of chaos, right? So when a child's power bucket is empty, they feel violated. They feel like life is unfair. They feel, like I said, they feel powerless. They feel helpless. They feel defeated. They feel a sense of loss. They can even go into like a grieving type process, and they feel resentful. What then happens? And think about it. If ever you feel like that, if you feel violated, or like life's being unfair to you, or powerless, or helpless, or resentful, how do you behave? I mean, do you know what? Right now, what's going on in the world, what the governments are doing to people, is a really good example. No matter which side of any argument you sit on, put all those principles aside for a second and check this out, right? Look at what the natural desire is, natural human behavior, when we feel like we are being coerced or forced or manipulated into something. And when we are told that something we enjoy will be taken away from us as a punishment until we do what they want us to do. There isn't anyone that sits okay with. And so right now is a really good opportunity for parents to look at how you feel in regards to what's going on in the world, the kind of force and control and tracking and tracing and whatever it might be. Maybe something's going on with your job. Maybe you're afraid you'll even be able to keep your job. Maybe you feel coerced into making any particular decision. Maybe you feel judged for even having friends, or for maintaining conversations with people on the other side of the equation. There's all of these things going on at the moment where that's dipping into our power buckets, and it's a really good time for a parent to see that perspective on behalf of their child, that if you bring those adult principles, government versus adult, down to child versus parent, ultimately the emotions are the same. So when your child, starts, behaving in ways like tantrums and meltdowns and power plays and defiance and disobedience, and they become argumentative or oppositional, in that they start not contributing to the family. They're so resentful towards you. They don't want to help you. They don't want to be compassionate. They don't want to understand you. They want revenge. They want some payback. They get disrespectful. They start backchatting. They end up with low self-esteem and self-worth. And, ultimately, when our power bucket is completely emptied for long enough, we give up, okay? And so just look at these. If your child is showing these kind of behaviors, then I would highly suggest that you need to look at where can you give them some power back. Your child's not a bad person. They're not a little shithead. They're not, difficult child. They're not trying to make your life harder or worse. That's not true. They are behaving in a very normal way, the same way you do at an adult level, when you are coerced, when you are forced, when you have power taken away from you, when you can't make some of your own decisions, and when you can't access some of your own desires. It's natural. It's normal. So before we go in trying to correct them, first of all, we connect with them. Connect, then correct. Now, what I would suggest is giving your child power back at every opportunity you can. The best way to give your child power back is to allow them to make as many choices as possible for themselves. If you've got a 2-year-old, I mean, let them choose which spoon they want to use, which cup they want to use, which plate they want to use. Even if they're the same bloody spoon or the exact same cups, even if they're the same color, whatever, just say, would you like this one or this one? Would you like this spoon or this spoon? Would you like me to fill your orange juice from here or to here? Any opportunity that you've got to give your child access to their choices will help them feel like they have some control of their life. Now, let me bring it down to, a child level, and why children quite often, particularly in the nighttime routines, why they will claim all their power back. Because here's what's happening. If your child doesn't have access to their power, enough of their power throughout a day, guess what they do? They use all their power on you at bedtime, and they don't go to sleep, at meal times, and they won't eat what you make for dinner. The other quite common area is with things like toileting issues, because it's like your child says, do you know what? No matter what, you can't make me eat and you can't make me sleep. You can get angry at me, you can threaten me, you can scare me, you can smack me, you can yell at me, you can do all those things, but ultimately you cannot make me eat and you cannot make me go to sleep. So and this is subconsciously, this isn't the child's intention, but there is a payoff they get for giving you resistance at all of these times of day. And they can't explain it. They don't know what it is. We're wired for it. What's happening is they're getting access to your energy. They're getting their power back, and it feels good. Think of it in an adult version, an adult scenario. Let's just say, for example, you're driving along the road and you realize you missed your turn off, and you need to do a U-turn and go back. But everywhere that you can see to do a U-turn, it says no U-turn. Now think about this for a second. I want you to because sometimes rebellion is your child's only form of freedom. And the reason they're rebelling against you all the time is because when they rebel, they get access to the freedom. The same way you do when you do a U-turn where you weren't meant to do a U-turn. As soon as you break the rule, or you be a bit rebellious, or you do what you want anyway, in the moment where you do something that you weren't supposed to do, there's something in it. It feels good, right? When you do a U-turn where it says no U-turn and you get away with it and no one saw you do it, there's something that feels good about the fact that you just did what you wanted to do, even though you weren't supposed to. This is essentially the situation our children are in, which is why we keep getting these, niggly, naggy, whiny, tantrumy, meltdown kind of behaviors. Why do they get themselves stuck in those patterns? Because something about it feels good. Because even though they're not getting positive attention from you, they are maintaining their power. So give your child back power at every opportunity. Let them make as many choices as they can. They don't get many choices in their lives. Think about it. If they go to school, it's like, not only do they, basically get given what they're having for lunch, what they're having for recess. Most of the time, children don't have a whole lot of say over what they're going to eat. They open their lunchbox and that's the deal. And then inside the classroom, it's not just, okay, guys, come and listen. It's okay, everybody sit down, legs crossed, hands in lap, back up straight, eyes on me. It's like every single part of their behavior, everything about their body, everything about their thoughts, everything is being governed by somebody else. And in all of these moments, because they're in an emotionally vulnerable, emotionally exposed environment with their peers, quite often we have to suppress the part of ourselves that wants to sit however I want to sit, that wants to, put my legs out if I want to do that. We have to suppress all of those little parts of ourselves in order to go along with the status quo in the classroom. Guess what happens? When your child comes home, they are so tired of suppressing every part of themselves, every one of their own little desires that they had to suppress, that it's like everything bursts out and you cop it all. And you think, oh my, the teachers are telling you how much of a lovely child you've got. And you're like, oh my gosh, they do not come home like this. Why do my kids have meltdowns when they get home from school? Why is it at dinner time and at bath time and at bedtime that we always get the power plays? We always get the resistance. This is where they don't listen. Everyone goes to bed angry and upset. And it's because this is the only opportunity they've had to claim back their power. And because they're no longer in an emotionally exposed environment, they're in, somewhat of a safe environment at home with people who love them. This is where they let their walls down and they start claiming back what their soul needs. We are wired this way. We are wired to have free will, and we always want access to our free will. So if you want to help your child, get out of the power play game, and you get out of the power game with them, stop trying to win. I always say to everyone in my online program, I say, hey, do you want to win the argument or do you want to win at parenting? And we need to be conscious enough as parents to see a higher perspective here and not come in over the top of them, just like the governments are coming in over the top of us at the moment and forcing us to, be controlled and manipulated the way that they want us to. Think about it in that regard. What need does my child have when they're choosing not to eat, when they're choosing to play up at bedtime? They are only displaying an unmet need. That is all. They are not intentionally trying to make your life difficult. They are just trying to get their own needs met. Okay, so connection before correction, number one, access to as many choices as possible, and use that language in your sentences. Well, when you choose to pack up your toys, then I'll do this with you. Well, when you choose to hit your sister, you're choosing to have thinking time. Well, when you choose to get out the shower on your own, then you're choosing for me to sit with you and read a story before it's bedtime. Okay, so refer to when you make decisions like that, when you choose that, this is what you're choosing. By choosing this, you're choosing that, and not always the consequence scenarios. But you know what? Well, if you decide to go and have your shower, get yourself dressed, I tell you what, you choose to do that, and then you're showing me that you're ready for me to spend some time with you before bed. So when you make choices like that, you know what? You're actually choosing for me to have more time with you. Okay. But when you choose to delay it and to procrastinate and to not have your showers, you're choosing to not have more than one story at bedtime because we don't have time. So that's your choice. You get to decide how many books we read tonight. We've got 15 minutes, however many books we can read in that time, we will. But as soon as you start taking longer in the shower or longer to get dressed, we don't have as much time left to do our reading. So you get to choose how much time we have tonight before bed. So let your children have access to choices everywhere possible, everything, particularly when it's to do with their own bodies, what they eat, what they drink, what kind of pajamas they wear. Don't get caught in do as I say just because I said, and this is what you're eating and this is what you're wearing. That is a parent getting stuck in their own powerlessness, trying to claim back their power. So give your kids choices. Remember, behavior is never, ever random. We are always only trying to get our needs met. So instead of seeing your child as doing nothing but a power play, look for, well, if they're doing a power play, they must be feeling powerless. Where can I give them some power back? Where can I let them have access to some kind of control over their own life and to making choices that would feel right to them? As I always say, this kind of parenting, it takes courage. It takes courage to just pause on those moments, to not react, and to look deeper into why something's happening. So more than anything, if I could ever have a wish for a parent, it is always courage, because to do things differently takes courage. To break a cycle takes courage. To pause so that you can think of the right language to use. All of these moments take courage. So as you depart from here today, please depart from here with courage. The courage to believe in a better way. The courage to voice what you've got to say. The courage to thrive when times are tough. And above all else, the courage to know you are good enough. Goodbye.